Hey there and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're making Chole Masala. Now Chole Masala is an Indian dish, and if you've never eaten Indian food, this is a great place to start. If you're a fan of Indian food, this is a great recipe to add into your rotation. This recipe does not call for a lot of ingredients, but it calls for a variety of spices. It takes very little time to put together, so let me show you how to do it. Whenever I make this dish, the first thing I do is grab a bowl and I measure all my spices into this bowl because they'll go in the pot at the same time. And something that I usually do is I set out an extra jar or two, and as I measure into this bowl, I measure spices into a couple of jars, and the next time I want to make Chole Masala, I grab this jar and I toss it in, and it shaves off a few minutes. I think a lot of people hesitate trying Indian food because they think it is spicy curry. And although that is one option, that doesn't even begin to touch the variety of spices used in Indian cooking. Most of the spices that I use are warm and savory and flavorful, and you can add a little heat to it if you want, but you certainly don't have to. Let's jump right in and measure our spices into a bowl. We'll start with 1.5 tablespoons of cumin. Next, we'll add our salt. And I'll put all the measurements down below, so no need to jot anything down. Chili powder. Coriander. Turmeric, which adds such a beautiful bright color. Garam masala. And garam masala is an Indian blend, Indian spice blend. And it has cardamom and cinnamon, cloves and nutmeg and coriander and a lot of the really sweet, warm, aromatic spices. And then curry, and I like to use a sweet yellow curry. And these are all the spices we'll use for our Chole Masala. Another thing I like about this recipe is there's very little chopping involved. I will chop an onion, a couple of hot peppers because we like it spicy. I'll mince some garlic and we'll throw in some ginger. And we don't eat a lot of ginger, so I like to buy this frozen ginger at the store, and it comes with little pods of ginger, and I just pop out whatever I need. First off, I'll chop this onion, and I'll tell you how easy this recipe is. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and I have a lot of food to prep, but I want to have something besides the traditional Thanksgiving food, and I thought I would make this Chole Masala, and we'd have it tonight for dinner, and then we could have it after Thanksgiving because it stores beautifully. It's even better the second or third day. But it doesn't take long to put this together, and it's really not going to throw me off course in regard to prepping for Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm just going to push everything aside, keep everything on my cutting board, and I'll chop these peppers. And don't forget to remove the membranes and the seeds from these peppers. The heat comes from the seed, but the membrane holds a lot of heat. So I just use a spoon and scoop that out. And then I really suggest that you take a taste of that pepper before you add it, because a jalapeno and a serrano pepper can vary so much one batch to the next, and you don't want to be caught off guard. That's got some kick. I think I'll set half of that aside. We'll go with 1.5. Now let's get this garlic minced. And this is that really mild elephant garlic, which If you've followed my channel for long, you know this is our absolute favorite. It's very, very mild. It's absolutely delicious. And that is all the chopping there is. Okay, I've got my pot heating over a high flame, and I'm going to drop a little water in and see if it's hot enough. It's ready for my water saute. You know I don't saute in oil. Don't want to add those extra calories. So in go my onions and my jalapeno peppers. I'll give this a stir. And now that I'm getting a little color in the bottom of the pan, we'll throw in a little more water. I've let this cook dry a couple of times and just added a little more water to continue my saute, and now I'll throw in our garlic. And I always put the garlic in last. I don't want to cook it too long. I don't want it to become bitter. So I'll just give this a little stir, add a little more water, and we'll let this saute for about 30 seconds to a minute, but no longer. My garlic, it smells so good in this house. My garlic has sauteed for about a minute, and I'm just going to put all my spices in, give it a little stir, and I want the heat to kind of bloom those spices. And now we'll just add the rest of our ingredients. Our chickpeas that were slightly drained, 1 can of fire roasted tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and lower my heat. And our ginger. And I want this to simmer for just a little while, so I'll put the lid on it. And while it simmers, I will make our cashew cream. Because we're a plant-based family, I don't use heavy cream in anything. Instead, I use cashew cream, and it's super easy to make. Now, if you don't have a high-speed blender, take your cashews and soak them in a cup of hot water for about 30 minutes, and that will soften them, and you can blend them in a regular blender. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cashews in and my water. And another little trick, we don't use coconut milk because it has so much saturated fat, and I just don't like to eat saturated fat if I can avoid it. But sometimes I want to cook a dish that calls for the flavor that you get from coconut cream or coconut milk, and so I will blend my cashews in coconut water, and you end up with this really great coconut milk without all that saturated fat. Now, I blended that for about a minute, and this will thicken as it sets. I'm going to take a little bit of this cashew cream out and set it aside because I like to drizzle a little bit on top of the chole masala. This has been simmering for about 20 minutes, and now we'll add our cashew cream. If there were ever a time I wish you could smell what I'm cooking, this is it. Now that the cashew cream's added, I'll just bring this back to a really gentle boil and let it cook for about 5 more minutes, and it'll be ready to serve. Now you can certainly eat this in a bowl as is, but I love to serve it with jasmine rice. And I batch cook my rice in my Instant Pot and freeze it, and whenever we want something with a little rice, I just pop it in the microwave. I love the beautiful golden color of this chole masala. That is crazy fragrant. Now I'll just drizzle a little bit of the cashew cream on top. This is really hot, but I can't wait to taste it. This is one of my favorite dishes. This is actually one of the first Indian dishes I ever ate, and I just had to modify it to make it plant-based and not use any real cream. But oh my goodness, this just cannot be beat. Well, I hope you give this recipe a try. It's a great way to try Indian food if you never have. I really appreciate you spending time with me today, and if you enjoyed our time together, please click the like and subscribe so you'll catch the next video, and I'll see you then.